right, we're just watching our favorite SciShow Kids videos from last year. We sure had a lot of fun in 2023, didn't we? Oh yeah, Squeaks particularly liked learning about sea monsters from the past and wants to watch that episode again. Are you sure it's not too scary? Okay, here we go. Hey Squeaks, you sure have been looking up a lot of pictures of sea monsters since we got back from the beach. Oh, our trip to the ocean inspired you? So you're doing research for a special art project? What is it? You're designing your own sea monster? That's such a great idea. You know, I bet you could get some inspiration from real animals too. Well, even though sea monsters aren't exactly real, there have been lots of really big, strong animals that have lived in the ocean. And even though they aren't alive anymore, we can learn what they looked like from their fossils. Fossils are anything that tells us about life in the ancient past. They can be bones, teeth, footprints, and all kinds of things. In fact, looking at fossils from ancient ocean creatures might be a great place to find inspiration for your sea monster design. How about you tell me what features you want your sea monster to have, and I'll help you look for real-life inspiration. Let's get started. You want your monster to be able to swim around the ocean. Well, that makes sense. Let's start off by checking out this fossil. Yes, this one has a super long neck. These fossils come from an animal called a plesiosaur. Plesiosaurs were really big reptiles that lived around the same time as dinosaurs, but plesiosaurs lived in oceans. This plesiosaur, called an elasmosaurus, had a neck that was over 6 meters long. That's longer than 2 cars put together. Plesiosaurs' long necks and sharp teeth helped them to catch fish to eat. They also had something to help them get around in the water. Yes, flippers! Instead of hands and feet like we have, the plesiosaurs had flippers, kind of like a seal. These made plesiosaurs pretty great swimmers. And plesiosaurs had another giant cousin in the ocean too. Take a look at this. It does kind of look like an alligator. This is an animal called Tylosaurus, which is a kind of mosasaur. Mosasaurs were also giant reptiles that lived in the ocean. They first evolved around 75 million years ago. They were huge like plesiosaurs, but they looked a bit different. What special features do you notice, Squeaks? Yes! Instead of a long neck like plesiosaurs, mosasaurs had powerful tails that helped them to swim, but they both had really big pointy teeth to help them catch their food. Mosasaurs ate all kinds of other animals, fish, birds, even other mosasaurs. So Squeaks, did any of those animals give you any ideas? Oh, your monster will have flippers and a long tail to help it swim quickly so it can catch its prey. Great! What's next? Oh, your monster needs to be tough, eh? Ooh, that reminds me of one of my favorite ancient sea monsters, the Dunkleosteus. Dunkleosteus is a giant fish from a group called placoderms. Can you see what special feature is my favorite about Dunkleosteus? Yes, its head is covered in bony plates that make it look a little like it's wearing a helmet that a knight in shining armor might wear. In fact, these animals are sometimes called armor-headed fish. Dunkleosteus were really big, almost as long as a school bus, and they needed a lot of food for their big bodies. Sometimes they would even try to eat other placoderms. Their giant, thick skulls worked like armor and might have helped keep them safe from other big predators. What do you think, Squeaks? Squeaks' monster will be covered with bony plates to keep it safe. What's next for your monster? Oh, your monster needs to look ferocious. Well, there is another ancient sea animal that we could get some ideas from. One that might be a little more familiar. Take a look. Ooh, you're right. It does look like a shark tooth. And sharks are still around today too, but they've been around for a really long time. Sharks first evolved way before the dinosaurs. And in the past, there were sharks much bigger than the ones we have around now. This tooth is from a megalodon, the biggest type of shark that ever lived. Compare it to the tooth from a great white shark. What do you notice, Squeaks? Yes, the megalodon tooth is much bigger. Megalodons were enormous. Megalodons could grow at least 45 feet long, or 15 meters. That's as long as a semi-truck. If you look really closely at the edges of the megalodon's tooth, you might notice one more feature that helped them eat their prey. Their teeth have serrated edges, which means they have little bumps along the sharp side, like a bread knife. These made megalodon teeth super sharp and good at slicing into their prey. Ooh, yeah! I think a set of big serrated teeth would be the perfect addition to your sea monster. It sounds like you have a lot of great ideas to make a really fearsome sea monster. It's got flippers like a plesiosaur, a strong tail like a mosasaur, bony armor like a dunkleosteus, and serrated teeth like a megalodon. Let's see how it turned out. Now that is an amazing sea monster, Squeaks! I hope learning about these animals from the past gave you some fun ideas for designing a sea monster too. What special traits would you want to give your own sea monster design? I don't know about you, Squeaks, but I thought some of those ancient sea creatures were really scary looking. You're right! Some of the cave creatures we learned about last year were pretty scary looking too. Oh, Squeaks wants to head back to the cave to visit Sam the Bat and his underground friends again. Do you have your flashlight ready?
Sunscreen? Squeaks, I don't think we're gonna need sunscreen. Oh, hey everyone. Squeaks and I just got an invitation to go visit Sam the Bat and his whole family in the cave where they live. We're just thinking about what we might need to bring. That's what I mean, Squeaks. Sam lives in a cave, so sunscreen isn't going to be very useful. Well, Squeaks, maybe we'll need a snorkel and flippers, or maybe we won't. Caves seem like they might be all the same, but actually there are lots of different kinds of caves. Some caves can be wet and others can be dry. Caves are a kind of a habitat. A habitat is a place where living things make their home, like forests or coral reefs, or almost any place on Earth. Caves exist all over the world, and lots of different animals live inside them. That's right. Some animals like bats sleep in caves during the day and come out at night. But other animals live so deep inside, they never come out to the surface at all. Let's look at some examples of animals that live their whole lives inside of caves. This is an alm, a type of salamander from Europe. A salamander is a creature that looks like a lizard, but is actually more like a frog. This is a Mexican tetra. It's a type of freshwater fish. Some can live in rivers on the surface, but many of them live in caves. And this is a Pe'epee makaole, or Kauai cave wolf spider. It lives in Hawaii. All of these animals have caves as their habitat. Animals who live in the same kind of habitat often share the same characteristics. Can you see anything these three animals have in common? That's right. They don't have any eyes. That's because they don't need to use their sense of sight as much as they need their other senses. A sense is how living creatures know things about the world around them. When you see or hear or taste, you're using your senses to learn about your environment. Try this. If you can, turn off the lights in your room or just close your eyes really tight. Don't worry, Squeaks. It's gonna be just a second. I'll be right next to you the whole time. Okay? Ready? All right, pay attention to your other senses. What can you hear? I can hear my breath and a little wind outside. And we can hear each other. I can also feel the temperature around me, and I can touch the table in front of me or feel my way around if I need to walk. What about you? What can you notice around you? Okay, let's put the lights back on. Yeah, that was fun. We can learn a lot about our surroundings even without sight. People and other animals that live in habitats where there is lots of light find it useful to be able to see. But we know that cave habitats are very dark, just like when we turned off the lights. Animals are adapted to the habitats where they live. This means they can have different body parts or other characteristics that make it easier to live in their environments. So animals that don't need to be able to see because they live in deep, dark caves also don't need eyes as much as they need their other senses. Even though they can't see, the animals still need other senses to help them find food, move around, and escape predators. What do you think they can use to sense things in their environment? Right, they might smell if another animal is nearby. Or the spider or the alm might use their legs to feel where they're going. They are really cool, Squeaks. Maybe when we get to Sam's cave, he'll know an alm that we can visit. We better finish getting ready.
It was sure great to see Mr. Brown again, wasn't it, Squeaks? Oh, I miss him so much since he moved to Wisconsin. I know, Squeaks. It made me sad too. But remember all the cool things Mr. Brown taught us about lakes before he left? Let's look back on how lakes form.
Oh, hey Squeaks. I have something to tell you, and it's a little hard to say. I got a new job in a different state, so my family and I are moving away. We're moving to Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I grew up. I'm excited to go, but it's pretty far away, so I won't be able to visit the fort much anymore. Well, it won't be easy to get there. I'm going to pack up all my stuff and put it on a big truck and drive it all the way to my new house. I know I won't be right here anymore, but I'll still be able to video chat with you and Jessi. And even though I'll miss you guys, there are gonna be some good things about living in a new place. You know how much I love the outdoors. Well, in Wisconsin, there will be lots of opportunities for sailing and swimming and fishing. It's not by the beach in the way you're thinking. Wisconsin isn't all that close to the ocean, but it is close to some of the biggest, most beautiful lakes anywhere. A lake is a body of water that's separate from the ocean. It's slower moving than a river or stream. Sometimes lakes are salty like the ocean, but often the water is fresh like a river. Lakes are smaller than the ocean, but they can still be very big. The biggest lake in the world is called the Caspian Sea. It's in Central Asia. It's almost 400,000 square kilometers. That's close to the size of Montana, the state where the fort is. But the second biggest lake, well, it's next to Wisconsin. Check it out. This is Lake Superior, and it touches the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota, plus the country of Canada. It's one of a group of 5 huge lakes. They are pretty great. In fact, that's what we call them, the Great Lakes, because of how big they are. Lakes like these are pretty special. It takes some big changes to create such big lakes. Well, it all started about 100,000 years ago. Even though that's a long time ago, the dinosaurs were already long gone. But in some parts of the United States, you might have been able to see saber-toothed cats and even mastodons, giant extinct relatives of elephants. Around that time, big sheets of ice started to cover parts of North America, including where Wisconsin is now. I'm talking huge blankets of ice all over the place. You might think we get a lot of snow now, but this ice was around for a very long time. It didn't just melt every spring. The ice sheets were also very heavy. They slowly scraped over the land back and forth over a very long time. And as they did, they wore away some of the rocks and dirt, leaving big holes in the ground. Kind of like what happens when you drag your feet through sand at the beach. You leave long tracks where the sand got pushed away. Oh, well, It's a little scary to think of ice changing the land like that, but it happened very slowly. If people had been there to watch, it would have happened so slowly that they wouldn't have noticed it. Eventually, all that solid ice melted into its liquid form, water. And that water needed somewhere to go. Can you guess where? Exactly. The liquid water flowed into all the holes the ice sheets had carved out. Over time, the holes slowly filled up and turned into the Great Lakes we have today. And Wisconsin is full of smaller lakes that were also formed by glaciers, like these 4 lakes that surround the city of Madison, where I'm moving. In fact, there are more than 15,000 lakes in Wisconsin, so I'll have plenty to explore.
Hey, you guys talking about lakes in here? I love lakes.
Oh, hey, Jessi, Sam, Squeaks and I were just talking about the Great Lakes. I'll get to see them when I'm in Wisconsin.
I heard you were moving to Wisconsin. We're sorry to see you moving away from the fort, but we know you'll have an amazing time there. Oh, sad Squeaks. Don't cry, buddy. Moving can be hard, but there are good things that happen when people move to new places too. Moving means new friends to meet and new foods to try.
That's a great point, Jessi. And that reminds me of one more thing I'm excited to tell you, Squeaks. Wisconsin is really famous for cheese. This is a little going away present from me to you, Squeaks. And for you, Jessi, so you'll remember all the fun we've had going bird watching, here's an American robin,
Wow.
the state bird of Wisconsin.
Oh my god. I love it. Oh my gosh.
And a field guide of the birds of Wisconsin so we can go bird watching when you and Squeaks come to visit.
Oh, this is perfect. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
You're welcome. And for you, Sam, cheese isn't the only thing Wisconsin is known for. They also make great bratwurst.
Wow, with sauerkraut. My favorite.
I also have a present for Bill and Webb, too. Has anyone seen them?
Did somebody say presents?
That's right. I've got a bottle of root beer that's made in the neighboring city of Milwaukee, but I only have one left, so I guess you'll have to share.
Mine. No, mine.
No,
Give it to
mine.
me. Mine.
All right, I'm just messing with you two. I have plenty for both of you. I have an idea. Once we're all settled in, why don't you guys come visit us and we'll treat you to some Wisconsin cheese curds.
And brats, too?
Of course.
Wow.
That sounds amazing. You can count us in. We're so glad that you moved here and that we got to meet you and learn with you. I know that change can be sad and scary, but change can be really exciting and lead to fun new things. Like if those glaciers hadn't changed the landscape in Wisconsin all those thousands of years ago, we wouldn't have all those amazing lakes.
That's right. Thanks, Jessi. And thank you, Squeaks. I can't wait to see what you guys learn next.
And we hope you'll come back and teach us all the cool things that you learn in your new home. Those lakes were so beautiful. Don't we live on an amazing planet, Squeaks? Oh, Squeaks thinks Mars might be just as amazing. Remember when we designed Mars rovers last year? Let's show everyone what great engineers you and your friends are. Hey there, we were just playing with Squeaks' remote control car. Say, I noticed that your car has really big tires. I don't remember them being so big when we bought it.
Aha! I'm glad you noticed. The car had a little trouble going over bumpy spots in the ground. So Squeaks and I thought about things we could do to fix that problem, and we worked together to find an answer. It took a couple of tries, but we found that the bigger tires help a lot.
What a great solution! I had no idea that you and Squeaks were such great engineers. Oh, an engineer is someone who identifies problems and then designs ways to solve them. And that's exactly what you and Sam did. In fact, remember how we were talking about the Mars rovers, the remote control vehicles that we use to study Mars? Well, Engineers once solved a problem really similar to yours. Engineers noticed that the wheels on the rover Curiosity were starting to wear out faster than they expected. That's because the surface of Mars is super rough and bumpy. So, when they were designing the next Mars rover, Perseverance, they made some changes to the design and added new wheels that were bigger and thicker. And engineers are always thinking of ways to make their designs even better, especially for things like Mars rovers, since we still have lots of things we want to learn about Mars. We'd like to send even more rovers to help us study it. Let's be engineers today and design our own Mars rovers.
Okay.
Great! The first thing we need to do is to think about what things we want our rover to do. Let's each think of one thing. Okay, let's share our ideas. Mars is super cold compared to Earth. So I think the rover should be able to keep itself warm so the tools on board don't freeze.
Ah, cool idea.
What's your idea, Squeaks? Squeak says he thinks the rover should be able to drive really fast so it can cover a lot of area every day. Ooh, that's a good idea. How about your idea, Sam?
I think the rover should be able to help figure out why the dirt on Mars is red.
Ooh, I like that idea too. Let's use that as our problem. How can the rover help scientists figure out why the dirt is red? Okay, it's time to use our imaginations. Let's split up and each come up with a design to solve this problem. Grab a pencil and paper, and I'll meet you back here in a little while.
Sounds good.
All right, now for my favorite part, sharing ideas. Sam, why don't you go first?
I think we can find out why the dirt is red by looking at it more closely. So, my rover has tools on board like magnifying glasses and microscopes that can help us see things better.
I love this design. How about you, Squeaks? Oh, Squeaks says the rover should be able to taste the dirt. Maybe it has a flavor that makes it red. So he's included a tool that acts like a robotic tongue. That's awesome.
How about your design, Jessi?
Oh, well, I think that the rover should be able to bring back some dirt to Earth so scientists can study it up close. So my rover has a scoop that it can use to dig up some dirt.
Whoa, that's a great idea, Jessi.
Thank you. Wow, we came up with 3 different ways to solve the problem. That's exactly what engineers do. If we were really going to try out any of these ideas to send them to Mars, our next step would be to build a model. Engineers and scientists use models to see how well their solutions work. So, for example, we might build a model rover with a robotic tongue like yours, Squeaks. Then we would try it out somewhere on Earth that's a little like Mars, like the desert. If that worked well for helping us learn about the dirt on Earth, it would probably work well on Mars too. So we'd add it to our design. You can think like an engineer too. All you need to do is to come up with a problem to solve. Then imagine a way to solve it and draw out your design. Have more than one idea? Then you can make more than one design.
Ooh, I think I have another idea.
Awesome! Let's go and make some more designs. Wow, we had such an amazing 2023. We learned about sea monsters, caves, lakes, and even Mars. But you know my favorite thing we do every year? Experiment. Squeaks put some seeds on a wet paper towel and watched them germinate. It may be winter here at the fort now, but it's never too early to start thinking about spring again. Let's watch and plan our garden.
I'm so excited about our garden, Squeaks. And thanks to the seed calendar we made with our friend Juniper, we know the perfect time to put each of these seeds into the ground so that they can grow into plants. Soon we'll have some great vegetable seed. You're right, Squeaks. It is surprising that these teeny tiny seeds turn into plants big enough for us to eat. Even though they're small, seeds are jam-packed with different parts that help a plant grow. And I know a way that we can take a closer look at the inside of a seed to understand how. That's right, Squeaks. These are beans. How are beans going to help us learn about seeds? Well, Believe it or not, beans are seeds. And a lot of beans are really big, which makes it easy to look at them to understand how a seed works. That's because all seeds have the same basic parts, from a big bean to a tiny radish seed. If you look closely at each part's shape or structure, you can find clues about how it helps the seed grow into a plant. Let's open up one of these beans and take a closer look inside. I soaked the beans in water overnight to make them softer so it would be easier to pull them apart. This outer part that I'm peeling off is called the seed coat. Well, kind of like a coat you would wear outside, except that it doesn't really keep the seed warm. What do you know about the outside of a bean, Squeaks? Yeah, they do taste delicious when they're cooked, but what about before you cook them? How do they feel? Yes, beans are really hard and tough. If I hadn't soaked the seed first, I would have had a hard time peeling it off. The seed coat is so thick and tough because its job or function is to surround the seed and keep it safe until it's time for the seed to grow into a plant. This thick coat keeps the seed safe from many things. It holds water inside the seed so it won't dry out, and it helps protect the seed from being dropped or squished. Okay. We've covered the seed coat, but there are still 2 more parts to a seed. Do you see that, Squeaks? That part of the seed is called the embryo, and it looks like a tiny plant because it is. It's a baby plant. Like all babies, its job is to grow, and it's already started deep inside the seed. It's just waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Now, do you see all of this other stuff inside the seed? This part of the seed is called the endosperm, and it's what the baby plant eats. Yes, the endosperm's job is to feed the baby plant until it's big enough to make food for itself. So it's a bunch of food, like a cupboard full of snacks, just for the plant.
Hey there.
Hi, Juniper.
I heard you guys talking about growing seeds, and I couldn't help it. I just had to crawl on over.
That's right, Juniper. We're learning about how seeds become plants. We were just talking about how the seed has 3 parts: the seed coat, the embryo, and
The endosperm. Yes, my favorite part of the seed, jam-packed full of food for the baby plant.
we were hoping you could tell us what happens after a seed begins to grow, since you can crawl down in the soil and see it for yourself.
You bet I can. Okay, let's dive in. So here's a bean, just like the ones you have right now. You can see it's just starting to grow a root, which is breaking through the seed coat. That shows our embryo is getting bigger. This process, where the baby plant starts to sprout out of its seed, is called germination. As it grows, the baby plant sends its roots down into the soil, which helps it get water. It also sends a shoot above the dirt. That's this part growing upwards. After it breaks through the top of the soil, the plant will grow leaves to collect sunlight to make its own food. It won't need the seed to feed it anymore. And the plant grows bigger and bigger until one day it'll be able to make seeds of its own to start the whole cycle over again.
Wow, Juniper. Thanks so much for showing us how a seed grows.
Anytime, Mr. Brown. I'm so glad you're as excited about gardening as I am.
We definitely are. Thanks for your help. You're right, Squeaks. It would be really cool to be able to see germination in action. Too bad we can't crawl down into the ground like you can, Juniper.
Oh, you don't need to go underground to see a seed germinating. All you need is a sealed plastic bag and a damp paper towel. Take some of your beans and put a few of them in a baggie on the damp paper towel. That will give them water and somewhere to grow. Then we'll place them in a sunny window so that they have sunlight, and we can come by and check on them whenever we want. Without soil in the way, after a few days, you can watch as each seed sprouts or germinates into a plant. And you out there watching can ask your grown-ups about doing this activity at home.
Okay, let's get going. This will be a great way to watch plants up close even as our garden is growing outside.
It's been so cool to look back on the year and remember everything we learned and all the fun we had. Squeaks, I'm so excited to keep experimenting, playing games, and learning new things with you this year. If you want to keep learning with us too, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time here at the fort.